Hello, and welcome to The Content Bite, a podcast for freelancers who use their words to make money. I'm Rachel Smith, a freelance journalist, copywriter, and content producer. I'm also the founder of Rachel's List, a jobs board and community for Australian writers and other creatives.
And I'm Lynne Testoni. I'm a journalist and content writer as well. Rachel and I are your weekly co-hosts, and every week we bring you all kinds of tips, tricks, and some fabulous guests to help you make the most of your freelance business. I just want to give a shout out to Rounded, our sponsor, because I know for me, my quarterly BAS used to be so stressful. But I love Rounded because everything is there and so tidy, Rach.
I know, no more shoe boxes of receipts. I also really love that my accountant can log into the program remotely and help me with lodgement. Just do it without me needing to even worry about it.
That's what we love.
But best of all, if you're a gold member of Rachel's List, you can save 20% on any annual Rounded plan. Even if you've got the Rounded discount last year, you can get it this year as well.
Awesome. The show notes always have the details.
Yeah. Hey Lynne, welcome back everybody who's listening. I'm so excited about today's episode. We've had lots of different freelancers on the podcast doing lots of different kinds of writing, but this week it's someone a little different. She's a screenwriter.
Yes, I'm so thrilled to have Josephine Barrett on the pod. She's one of the best in the business. A friend and colleague told me that, so I believe her. And she's a long-time freelancer, and it's great to hear how she's created such a successful career.
Sounds good. Well, tell me all about Josephine and we'll get her in the hot seat.
Okay, of course. So Josephine Barrett is an acclaimed novelist, teacher, and scriptwriter. She's written 3 novels, including The Secret Recipe for Second Chances, which was a culinary rom-com, which sounds fun, The Song of Us, and The Upside of Over, which has been developed into a 1-hour drama. Josephine has written and script edited many television dramas, and her writing credits include Bay of Fires, Love Child, Wonderland, Bed of Roses, East of Everything, Home and Away, and the award-winning children's animation series 100% Wolf. She's worked as a script editor on Bay of Fires, The Secret Daughter, Love Child, Wonderland, East of Everything, Love My Way, Home and Away, and Out of the Blue. She's also an actor. Oh, she's so versatile. With credits on Home and Away, Big Sky, Water Rats, and All Saints. She appeared on stage in multiple productions, including The Good Person of Szechuan, Miss Julie, Othello, The Lion That Picked Up 100 Babes, 10 Tits, which I love the title, which she also co-wrote, and Alchemy, Journey of a Wild Woman, which she also created. So welcome.
Welcome, Josephine. Great to have you with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Great bio.
It is a great bio.
I was listening to it going, yeah, 10 Tints isn't bad. It was funny that one it was a collaboration with a group of us, and we were talking about names. And I remember when that one came out, it wasn't mine, when it was one of the other writers, and I thought, oh, but now I hear it back and I go, oh, good on us.
Yeah, definitely give it a second look.
Yes. It's so lovely to have you on the podcast, Josephine. So how about you tell us a little bit about your background and what you're doing now?
Okay, well, as you were saying, I started off as an actor or actress, and I was also a speech and drama teacher, which is something I've kept going the whole time. I developed my interest in writing mainly via feeling really homesick. I got married and I moved to Chicago, and I wasn't working. I was waiting for my green card. I was shockingly homesick, and I started to write. And the way I started to write, because I've been an actor, was in script form. And then as I did that, this energy and this passion took hold, and I thought, oh my God, I feel much more comfortable with this than I ever did being an actor. And I can do it in my pajamas. I can be any age I want. I can be any sex I want. I can be anybody I want. And do it from the comfort of my own home, creating worlds and playing God. And there was a lot to love about that. So I followed that through, and I did some training, and then I've been fortunate enough to be working in the industry ever since.
Wow.
How amazing. And are you still acting, or has it
No,
sort of...
I mean, when I hear that, I go, oh, I haven't acted in a long time. I think the principles of it definitely, I'm acting all the time for myself when I'm going into character, when I'm writing, but I haven't acted in public for a long time, and I'm okay with that.
Wow. Yeah, I suppose, screenwriting, it sounds like screenwriting's taken over and that's really your main gig now.
Yeah, it is.
What are the pros and cons to working for yourself as a screenwriter? Because it's very different to what we do.
I think the pro is, well, obviously the freedom and the excitement and yeah, the momentum that happens when you go into new worlds, both when I'm writing for myself and when I'm collaborating with other people. So there's an immense sense of liberation that comes with that. And adventure, I guess. What's hard is, keeping it all going, keeping the wheels turning, making sure I'm looking for future work while I'm working on the project I'm on. All of those sort of more pragmatic things, are hard. And it's sort of also a job that can take over your life in many ways. I do eat and breathe and sleep what I'm working on. So I think for me, it's probably keeping the balance of that with, rather than just going to not that anyone just goes to a job, but having a job where you can perhaps leave it at home a little bit more.
Yeah, I can
Yeah.
imagine.
Yeah.
I'd love to know how it works, really. Do you work on multiple projects? Because I'm sure there are some that you're just formulating, some that you might be pitching, some in production. Is that how it works, or do you just do one at a time?
No, that's exactly right, Lynn, what you said first. It's you've always got many balls in the air. So for the last few weeks, I've been working on two different TV shows at different times, and I've been in the room, so brainstorming for them. And then they're waiting for funding to see if they get up for their next seasons. So then if that happens, I'd be writing scripts on both of those. So you're in different rooms at different times with different groups of people. And then, yeah, so if you get a script on one, then you're by yourself pretty much doing the work on that. While as you're going through the drafting process, you're also then, well, for me, I'm keeping my eye out for what else is going on. And at the same time, I'm also working on my own projects, so trying to get things out there and get things up. And also, I'm a novelist as well now, so I'm always bubbling away with something there.
Gosh.
Wow. Having to keep all those balls in the air and separate and kind of switch your brain onto this project and that project must be tricky.
Yeah, I think it can make it seem like you've got multiple personality disorder. And it is, I think, I start dreaming about different shows that I'm working on, and yeah, you go immersing yourself into the different worlds.
Yeah, on that TV show thing, I mean, we all write, we all do such different things, but I've got pretty much every streaming package known to man and just love TV, constantly watching things. And I'd love to know, can you take us through the anatomy of how a TV series comes together? Like, where do you start? How do you plan it out? Is it tricky with multiple writers working on different scripts? All of that.
It always starts with an idea, and then if that idea, so a key concept, if that key idea garners interest, so usually there's somebody who's come up with the idea. So Bay of Fires, it was created by Andrew Knight, Marta Dusseldorp, and Max Dan, and it came out when they were all in COVID in Tasmania. They got interest from the ABC, and then they broadened out to a group of writers to do workshops to actually start bouncing around. They call it bouncing around ideas, brainstorming. So what you want from that point is going from a concept into developing characters. And then you've got your concept and characters, your key ideas. So the example for this one is a woman who's on witness protection going to Tasmania. So you're going from something broad like that into more depth and more detail. So we go concept, character, and then you go into the arc for a series. So you're going, if this is an 8-part series, what are the stories that we want to follow? What's the arc for the entire series? And what are some of the stories that we're going to follow within the series? So it becomes more detailed. You have a group of writers with that. And then within that group, you'll usually take an episode each. And then you go, okay, so Josephine's writing episode 4. So you take the the helm in a sense with your episode, and you dive more into what you're wanting to work on. From that, you do a thing called a scene breakdown, which you do by yourself. You submit that to the producers and the network, and if that's okay, you go to the next stage, which is called a draft writing stage, you write your first draft. and then the same process happens, and it's a process, and that's usually a big explosion, and that's the script of what we see, a rough draft, and then that gets refined and refined over 3 or 4 drafts and redrafts as you polish to get it ready for production. And then it gets to it, kind of dies in a sense and has a new life in production when it's, comes to life with actors on set, and then another life when it goes into the editing suite, and then another life when it goes to air.
Wow,
gosh.
there's so much in it. And at the beginning, like at that brainstorming time, are all those writers getting paid? I imagine they
Yeah,
are. Yeah.
in my experience, I mean, sometimes they won't have much money, and if it's a like you call a love project, you might do it for a reduced fee, or if it's your own project and you're desperate to get it up, you might ask a few mates to kind of come and help, but that's more of a private thing to then go and pitch it to, say, a production company or something. But yeah, in my experience now, I get paid to brainstorm and plot and write, so
Mm.
except for my own stuff when I'm doing it at home.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Mm.
So I know you said you're both a screenwriter and a script editor. Do you want to talk us through the difference? And is there one that you prefer over the other?
I love both. I think because I had a bit of teaching in my background, I enjoy the script editing because it's following a script through on its journey to go into production, and I'm interested in that side of things. In terms of pure creative expression, screenwriting, I love, because it's you and your voice going in the world. Whereas sometimes you're playing United Nations as a script editor. So you're taking the writer's work, you're taking on the notes from the producer, from the networks, serving them up in a palatable way to help the writer as they go into their next draft, and working with them. And then as you go along into production, you're still with the script. So if actors want changes made, or there are restrictions on set with locations, things change as they always change, you're then the person to do the changes on the script. So it is a very different sort of beast to being the writer, the screenwriter.
So interesting.
Yeah. I'd love to know, well, obviously the big elephant in the room for all of us writers is AI. How is that affecting screenwriters and script writers, if it is?
It hasn't, in my experience so far. I know it's affecting screen composers hugely at the moment. In my experience, I think because you've got a key idea, it's so much of it is bouncing ideas with other humans and developing character voices and coming, most of the stories that you see on TV, it's come from some weird anecdote that someone's had, or some kernel of an idea that then you expand on together. And I don't, in my understanding, AI hasn't got that technology of that creative currency of imagination, which I'm glad about, because I'd be out of a job.
Exactly.
True.
Yeah, let's talk a bit about money, because I know it's tough as a creative. So
Particularly in this country.
yeah, exactly.
Yes.
But you get paid for brainstorming right at the start when you don't know if something's going to be picked up and that sort of thing. How do you approach, pricing your work, or, setting fees for what you do?
I belong to a guild, the Australian Writers Guild, and we have guidelines that I follow. And it's sort of the more experience you have and what you're prepared to accept, what you feel comfortable with as well. So, and also there's different productions. There's a standard, it's sort of an award wage, but it's a guideline that, you have a choice whether you'd accept anything below that or not. I don't. Then there's also the margin for things that go above it, depending on your level of experience, I would say, and who you're working with, and how well they value writers.
Interesting. I can see one of the issues with the sort of work you do, and which is similar to us, is that you have a lot of ebbs and flows and things. Is cash flow difficult, or do you sounded like you're always having to look for the next thing, or do you have
No, it
work?
is absolutely difficult. I mean, I think when you get to a certain level, it helps, but then it's still, will the show get up? Or that's great to get paid for brainstorming, but if the show doesn't get up, I won't be writing an episode, which would be my, a huge bulk of my income for the year. So that is why you have to have multiple things going on. I think it's an ongoing challenge. I think many writers also do other side gigs, whether it's teaching, or some are actors as well, some are directors as well, some, I write novels as well. There's not that pays hugely,
I was
but
going to say.
no, but yeah, it's definitely, I think people imagine writers, and they think about Hollywood in the 80s with screenwriters and long lunches and fabulousness, whereas it's a lot of grind, and it's a pretty, yeah, it's a pretty modest income. So yeah,
Mm.
but it's worth it.
Is like the holy grail for a scriptwriter to get on a show, like a long running show like Home and Away or something like that?
I think it depends on your goals. I've done both. And I think the great thing with Home and Away is it's the best way to get your skills up and to get your muscle up and your discipline in. And there is that economic stability, which is a huge relief. But then conversely, when I think of things, like other shows, 1 hour shows I've worked on, there's a whole lot more creative freedom that you don't get in a Home and Away. So I think it depends what you're searching for at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting, isn't it? And you said you're teaching too. We hadn't really crossed that. How often are you teaching, and where do you teach?
I teach in schools. I teach speech and drama. And I love it because I think it keeps me current. I just teach 1 day a week, when I can now and then. But I love having connection with kids because it helps me with my characterizations, with language, with ideas. So I think, I definitely get more than I give in that sense. I think it's it's a great experience. So I love it. And it's also kind of gets me out of my head and being by myself in the house to being out there connecting with other people, hopefully exciting them about script. And also I do, poetry and public speaking and things like that. So it's looking at different ways of expressing ourselves with words. Yeah.
My kid goes to drama an hour and a half every week, and it's just been the best thing he's ever done in terms of activities and building his confidence.
Really?
So
Yeah.
yes, so thank you to all the great drama teachers out
It's
there.
it's great. Well, that's how I started originally too. I had a lisp, and I didn't pronounce my th. My f's and ths. I got mixed up, so I went to elocution classes, and I went from there. And it was the same thing. It was the hour of power every week. I loved it, and that's what made me fall in love with acting and writing. And I was thinking, it gave me such grounding into these amazing playwrights as I grew up. Going, it wasn't scary to be presented with Chekhov or something like that, because I'd done them in monologues starting from Alice in Wonderland and working up in different scenes. And I probably got the fever very early from that experience as well, which probably does stay with me with working with kids now. So it's
Yeah.
you figured that out. Thank you.
So fun, so fun. Yeah.
I think that performing and writing is so subjective. I mean, that's one of the challenges we have as writers.
Yeah.
Like all creatives, it's hard to put a value on your work. Do you have any advice to help freelancers get over that and charge with confidence?
Yeah, stop. I mean, I've spent far too much of my life being embarrassed and shying away and accepting less than what I should. And I'll never forget this, a successful businessman once said to me, you should always charge a price, because I was always apologetic. And if you can't, it's okay. And why don't I accept less than? And he said, you should always ask for a price that embarrasses both you and them. And I was like, wow, what a different way of looking at it, and actually taking pride in that. And I've found, and I would say with my other female friends in the arts as well, whether they be producers or writers or directors, you're actually doing everybody else in the industry a favor by asking for your worth and not taking less than what you should. You're setting a standard which should be adhered to. So don't shirk away from that. So I think of that. I actually think it's a responsibility to value your own self-worth enough to go, what you do is an asset and it's worthy of being paid and being remunerated appropriately, and that you are actually helping your colleagues by doing that.
I love that. And it's actually so true. That's very much our ethos as well. And mine at Rachel's List, running a big membership of writers that are all over the spectrum in terms of what they charge. But
Yes,
someone who
right.
charges correctly, everyone rises up by that,
It is. It really does lift the bar, I think, and
Yeah. Yeah.
something that we have the opportunity to do. So let's do it.
Mm. Well, I want to circle back just a minute to talk about finding clients, always a big thing for freelancers. And you mentioned, you have to do prospecting and that sort of thing. I'm wondering how different that looks for you. Is it a case of, you'll hear of things that are happening on the grapevine and then you'll go after them and say, hey, can I get in on this? Or do you need a script editor or a writer or that sort of thing? Is it about that, or is it very much word of mouth or a mixture?
It's a mixture. I think that it's always good I think you have different people who you connect with more, who tend to love to work with each other. So you've got people who you would have in mind when you're needing somebody to work with. I think a great thing to do is to network, to do, to keep your coffee dates up, keep conversations current, be engaged in what ideas you're interested in and see who you link up with on that. I think going out and pitching is always a good idea so they can see that you're creating your own work as well. I think that never hurts because you never know, it might be something that they're looking for. If it's not what they're looking for, they're keeping you in front of mind for a project that they might have that you might be suitable for. So with me, it's definitely the people I've worked with over the years and that I've developed good relationships with and I'm creatively in sync with. And then it is also still for me, I'm still expanding my network and meeting new people. And I also, it's what I watch. If there's something I watch that's Australian made and I think that's amazing, I think that's in my wheelhouse, I'll then try and approach the producer or the development manager of the production company and chat and yeah.
So
Amazing.
interesting. Are there lots of things? I went to a one-woman show with a screenwriter. What struck me, and I found it terribly hard and sad, she had like the biggest pile of scripts that she'd written that had never seen the light of day. Do you have lots of wonderful work that didn't get picked up? You know, do you have
abandoned children?
The bottom drawer.
There's a trail, but I guess I'm more optimistic because things circle back, and sometimes an idea that you haven't touched for 10 years that never got up, no one wanted, it might come back and revisit you in another way, or you refresh it. And what was out, no one wanted period dramas, now everybody wants period dramas, so now might be the time for that idea. Or it might have been the people that you pitched it to, it wasn't the right it wasn't the right connection. So I think to keep in mind what you're pitching creatively and to whom you're pitching it to, that it is a synchronicity and a meld there, that it's actually going to work in your favor. So I wouldn't go to someone who's, wanting to do hardcore action horror films because it's just not my shtick. So I think, fighting an even more uphill battle than somebody who does more relationship dramas, who's more into what I'm into.
Yeah.
So I think do your research is a really important thing.
Yeah. So, Josephine, we haven't asked you about your books. So you've written 3 novels. Did you say there's a 4th one coming soon?
There is a 4th one that'll come out next year. Yes, I've written 3, and that was actually started. I was in LA and I was doing a whole lot of meetings, and it was all very exciting. But there's an expression, you can starve on crumbs in LA, which is an enthusiasm. So I wasn't working, I was just doing meetings, and I thought, I'm going mad. I had a girlfriend who worked in publishing at the time who said, that concept for your TV show, you should write it as a novel. And I was like, oh, I'm never going to write a novel. And she said, well, why don't you? What else are you doing as a challenge? So I was in the hills in Topanga, and I thought, well, why not? So I started writing it again. It was like another evolution on the screenwriting feeling. It was absolute liberation because there's no worries about, budgets or who you could cast.
You could set it anywhere you liked.
I totally broke out. I loved it. I had a field day doing it. And then to my delight, I got a publishing deal with Hachette. And the novel, The Secret Recipe for Second Chances, went really well. And it sold, I think it sold to 7 countries, which I'm really happy about. And I've actually written the screenplay for it, which I'm working on with a friend to get up, which is exciting. And then I wrote another novel, The Song of Us, which is more of a personal novel, which is about music and death. And then the final one, The Upside of Over, is about female sexuality. And interestingly, it came out just before the whole Harvey Weinstein thing happened. So it was, it was like a predecessor to the Me Too movement. So it was at a weird time, whereas now everybody's all over female fantasy now.
Wow. And is it tricky, like moving from scripts to novel writing? Is that kind of an easy, seamless transition or not really?
I write scripts usually, well, as we were talking about, collaborate with other people, whereas novel writing, I'm completely on my own. And in some ways, I find it more intimate. It's almost like a love letter because it's directly from you to the reader. So it's sometimes you feel more exposed, but it's also a really beautiful thing.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah.
Well, we'll put links in the show notes to those books so people can find them.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what does your day look like, an average day in Josephine's life? Like, what are you working on?
Life is dominated by dogs, so it kicks off with dog walks. I try and do my personal life stuff first, so dog walks and domestics and things like that all out of the way by 9:30, and then I try and sit down. Then it's always like looking at the internet longer than what I should, going down that portal. By 10, I try and kick off, whether it's something I'm working on or whether it's something of my own. And I try and keep the hours of 10 and 4 just for my writing work. And, I have a lunch break, but my friends all know that's because I think unless I have that discipline, I lose time. So I've had to, and I've learned that through trial and error over the years of going, I actually have to have these boundaries down now where they're my working hours. That's my day. So I'm out of contact for that time just so I can be in my own world.
Well, we always ask our guests about their tech tips. Is there anything that you use that we might not know about? I mean, is there a script writing kind of word tool?
Yeah, I use a program called Final Draft, which I feel you absolutely need to have if you're working on as a script writer. It's very easy to use. Familiarize yourself with that, and that'll really help you with how to format a script. I think that's a huge thing. Obviously, having internet access so you can research things is really important. And as I said before, yes, streamers like you were saying, Rachel, I too subscribe to many different streamers because I need to know what's going on. And I think it's really important that you do that too if you're writing.
What about ideas? How do you collate them? How do you organize them? Go back to them? Do you have a way of doing that, a system?
Oh, I wish it was more structured than what it is. Usually if I find something, it might be an article that I've read or something I've heard about. I journal as well. That's another process that I find really helpful for me. And then I'll pop it down in my journal. And if it's something that then keeps coming back, I might write a few sentences about it. If I want to dive into it more, then I'll spend more time. And, if I think of a title or something, and I'll keep it in as a separate document. And then when I have time, I'll go, well, that was an interesting concept. Is that something I want to go into and maybe develop more? Or if it's somebody, a girlfriend I collaborate with a fair bit, we might start talking about it together and go, okay, is there, something we could do with this, and each share what we've got.
Interesting.
So interesting, yeah. So where can people find out about you and more about what you do? Do you have a website? You do, don't you? I think I looked it up. Yes.
No, I don't. That's the other thing, the tech thing. You should absolutely have a website, which is what I'm doing. 2025.
Josephine.
I know. Yeah. That's completely my block. I will be having a website. I think you can probably Google me and find me pretty easily. So
I did find you on LinkedIn, I think.
There you go. LinkedIn is fantastic for that. And I also need to be more active in LinkedIn. So yes, do as I say, not as I do with them.
Well, it's been really interesting to hear your thoughts on your industry and what a fascinating, career that you've carved out for yourself. I would love to, leave you with a final question for anyone out there who's contemplating getting into screenwriting, wants to, has a passion for writing scripts. And do you need an agent? How do you get started? What would be your advice?
Having an agent to get started is really helpful, but the most important thing is that you write. I read a quote once, a writer writes. And so I think no matter if you don't think anybody's ever going to read it, just keep going. Do some short courses at the Australian Film, TV and Radio School. I think that makes a huge difference, and start developing a network. That's huge. Like, as I said before, watch things, approach people, ask questions, join the Writers Guild. They've got different fees. They've got staggered fees. If you're a newcomer who's just sort of circling around the ideas, they can reduce your fee. And have an associate membership. And that really loops you into the network of writers. So yeah, they're 3 things I would highly recommend. And just keep writing. I went to a workshop once and the teacher said, give yourself permission to write badly. And that stuck with me because I on a really bad day, and I think I'm doing terribly, I think just keep going, and we can fix it up later. So yeah, give yourself permission to write badly. Just keep writing. Make it a muscle that's toned. Keep going.
I love that. Oh, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you both, Lynne and Rachel.
Good.
It's been so lovely to be with you and speak today.
Yeah, it's so great. So thanks to Josephine for being our guest this week. And that brings us to the end of the show. But thank you for everyone who's listening and sharing us on social media.
Yes, and don't forget, we'll pop the show notes in your podcast app, including a link to Josephine on LinkedIn, so you can connect with her until she gets her website up and running.
Yes.
But thank you, everybody, for being with us, and we'll see you next week.
Yep. Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks again to our wonderful sponsors, Rounded, easy accounting and invoicing software that helps freelancers run their business with confidence.
And don't forget, if you're a gold member of Rachel's List, you can check your welcome emails for an exclusive discount code on the annual subscription rate. You can also find it in the private Facebook Gold group, or just contact us at hello@rachelslist.com.au.